Welcome everyone to this mini-series about agentic engineering, specifically with Svelte. Now, up until this moment, we mostly talked about tools that you can add or use to make your experience better, but we never actually got around to talk about how to prompt your AI. Now, before we begin, a small presentation is due. I am Paolo Ricciuti and I lead the Svelte team at Mainmatter, which is an engineering consultancy that focuses on Svelte, Rust, Ember, and we help our client to go through the toughest challenges in these languages or to even adopt them in the first place. And most importantly, we helped a lot of customers to actually set up their system so that their engineer could ship code faster without compromising on the code quality. That's exactly what we are doing with our agents right now, because we allow our agents to ship a lot of code without compromising on code quality. So let's jump right into today's episode to see the difference between free prompt and plan mode. Today is all about doing heavy work with your agent. We're gonna start building heavy stuff with our agent. We're gonna probably ask the agent to refactor, to pick the design that we choose and breaking that down into CSS variables and all sorts of stuff so that we can actually use it in our application. Now, this is a pretty big task to do all this refactoring, so we're gonna look at how Opus 4.6 fares in this task. It might be already very good, but let's see. So let's start by asking our agent. We can say, now, as I've said, I'm giving this agent a huge task, and you should probably not do something like this. So the reason why I'm gonna press enter now is because I want to see you how with these very big tasks agents can struggle and how to fix more or less this thing. So let's press enter and let's watch how the agent work together. So it finished refactoring the editorial component. So if we take a look at the editorial design now, it's actually importing a bunch of stuff like mode toggle, page header, section rule, page footer, article. It really didn't follow my suggestions of really use something like for button, for the card and stuff like that. It created more high-level components. It also did something decently bad here, for example, where the mode toggle is actually just using JavaScript and it's adding the class list of dark there. At the end of the day, it's probably fine in the sense that if you want to toggle the dark mode, you probably need the JavaScript anyway. So while it is true that you need JavaScript, there are better ways of doing this. Like you could set a cookie so that then it can actually server-side render and stuff like that. But we can get to that in later. I think it's fine for the moment. I really don't like this effect here. It is synchronizing with the DOM, so I guess it's probably fine. But you could have just put this inside the on-click. You really don't need an effect there. You just need to do this inside the on-click. If you do dark is equal not dark, it should return after. So that should work. So you can basically just do this. Dark is equal not dark, and this will work literally the same without using an effect, which is much, much better. So regardless, the point that I'm trying to make, the reason why I used such a large task for this is to show you that it's not really that great at doing this kind of stuff. All of this, it was a decently bad job. It did decently good with the restructuring, with the CSS and stuff like that. But I really don't like how it did the split and how it did the changes and stuff like that. So let's now talk about the topic of today's video. So I'm gonna revert all the changes that our beloved clunker did. I'm gonna do new because we don't want to have any influence on the old version. And now, if you see here, you can press tab to change agent. Now, we kind of already talked about sub-agent. So if I do Svelte file editor, this is a sub-agent, which, as we said, it will open task create section rule component TDD. This is using Svelte file editor as our sub-agent. So it's basically as you can see, if I scroll up, this is a prompt that the main agent wrote for this sub-agent, and this sub-agent then invoked the MCP server, it got the documentation, it invoked the Svelte autofixer, it went back and forth with it ran the test, and all these things. And all this happened in a separate context window. So this is a sub-agent. So if I go parent up, and now if I do new, we can go back to here. What this tab is referring to is not a sub-agent, is an agent. So you can basically create various agents in OpenCode, and each agent can have a different set of tools and a different system prompt, basically. So the agent, if I tab, you can see that the color changes and the name here change. So this is the current agent that we are using. And up until this point, we only use the build agent. The build agent is basically the main agent that OpenCode has. And it's the agent that has the task of building something. But the name of this agent might suggest you what we are looking at. This is the plan agent. The plan agent is something that is very, very important when you are working on something that is a bit bigger than just, hey, please change this thing. Because the moment you start planning something, this agent cannot write code. So that's the unlocking bit, is the fact that when you switch to the plan agent cannot touch the code. The only thing that it can do is figuring out a series of steps that will allow the build agent to complete the task. This has several advantages. First, you can use the plan agent with a more intelligent model. You could technically use the plan agent with Opus, and then once the intelligent model has figured out the series of to-dos to do a task, then you can switch to a cheaper model and make that model execute that plan. It's not something that I like to do. If I have the ability, I think Opus is good both for planning and executing. But if you don't have this flexibility, it's nice to be able to use something cheaper. Also, once you build your plan mode, OpenCode will actually write your plan to a file. This is very important because you can then reference that file in a later session. So if the plan is too big to be completed by a single session, you can actually go ahead and reference that plan and say, please continue that plan. This is very nice. And it also allows you to review the plan. So sometimes when you launch a prompt, as we've seen before, the agent takes some decisions that you don't agree with. And with the plan mode, what you can do is that if you read the plan and there's something that you don't like, for example, the fact that it might create a toggle mode button component, you can actually tell the agent, I don't want that, and you are basically pre-steering the agent to not do something that you might not want it to do. It also helps with context because the agent can focus on a small portion of the plan at a time instead of the whole thing. And there is also another superpower in the plan mode. The agent can actually ask you questions. So the suggestions is actually to not be a lot specific in the prompt, because if you are very specific, you are kind of constraining the agent to your idea, while if you give the agent flexibility, the agent can actually ask you questions to clarify what it doesn't understand about the spec. So let's actually start and let's actually send back the same prompt that we sent before, but this time we are in plan mode. And you can actually specify to the agent, like you can say, use the question tool to ask me clarification questions if you think it's necessary. So you can actually do something like this to prompt the agent to actually use this kind of tool whenever possible. Let's launch it and let's see how it goes. And by the way, you can create your own agent that has its own specific set of tools. So like you can create an agent that can only run PMPM test, for example. You can create an agent that has a specific system prompt that steers the model into looking into some specific part of the code base, or into looking at specific files, or looking at specific patterns and stuff like that. It's not something that I generally do. I like the pattern of using a sub-agent for every atomic operation. I really love that pattern. Having an actual agent, I don't find that super useful, because generally like the plan and the build mode is probably enough, but it's nice to have the ability to do that. Okay, so now you can see that he's asking questions. So he now has explored the code base and now is asking to like a few questions. And you notice that it gives you a possible answer, but you can also type your own answer. So let's actually answer these questions. So the editorial design of Svelte uses different fonts and a different color scheme than the existing global layout CSS. Since you want this editorial design to be used throughout the app, should I replace the existing layout CSS variable with the existing one? Yes, replace entirely. Dark mode strategy. The editorial design has a dark light mode toggle using a CSS class. How should dark mode be managed globally? So you can see that like this is actually the kind of stuff that I was talking before I didn't like. And in this case, I can actually already give the agent my preferred solution. So like CSS class on HTML or body, Svelte store context, preferred color scheme only. I can type my answer. So my answer is I want the dark light to be as seamless as possible. It should store the preference in a cookie so that the class can be set during server-side rendering and prevent flash of unstyled content. Once JS is enabled, though, it should both set the cookie and update the class. And I can also say something else like, by default, it should use prefer color scheme. Components to extract. Which reusable components should I extract from the editorial design? mode toggle, section rule, page header, page footer, nav link, red rule, article grid, type your answer. So I think I want to type my answer. I want to say the components should be atomic parts like button, link, card that can be reused in other pages of the application. Or specific components that would benefit from the isolation of a new file in terms of legibility of the CSS or features. The existing article.svelte and featured article.svelte already exist as components. Should I also refactor improve those as part of this work, or only extract new component? I would say refactor them too is a good answer, and it's also the recommended one. And now it's confirmed. We can now confirm all the questions, so we can continue. And this will basically steer the agent into creating the right strategy for the plan. Okay, it now finished writing the plan. So as you can see, you can read it here, but obviously that's a bit annoying to write here. And now it's asking like, the code is complete. Would you like to switch to the build agent or start implementing? So here you can actually see that if you answer yes, you are actually switching to the build mode and starting executing on the plan. But you can also answer no and continue refining the plan. Now, this plan should also be available in our VS Code here. So as you can see, in our .opencode folder, we now have a plans folder, and this is our plan in Markdown. So now we can actually review the plan and see if everything that he's trying to build is fine for us. So we can see like extract the self-contained editorial design system from editorial design.svelte into global CSS variable and reuse atomic component with a cookie-based dark mode that prevents fog. Phase 1, foundation, create shared article type. So in source lib types.ts, new extract article interface used by both article.svelte and featured article.svelte. So for example, we can just refine this because we know that we want to have also validation for this in the future in the shape of validbot. So we can actually tell the agent to already do that. We can say replace layout.css with editorial design tokens. That's, I think it's fine. Replace all the variables with the editorial ones. Light mode as root default. Media prefer color schema dark or on root not light for system dark preferences. Root dark for explicit dark mode. Move keyframes fade up and fade down here, currently duplicated in 3 files. Move paper texture overlay to body before. Keep body sizing reset and base body styles. That's fine. Update plus layout.svelte. Replace playfair display with font sources variable and outfit variable. Accept data prop to pass team to children. Okay, we need to clarify this. Dark mode SSR. Source hooks.server.ts. Add a handle team using sequence with existing handle better route. Read team cookie and use transform page chunk to inject class on HTML. That's a very good strategy. Up.d.ts. Add team dark light null to up locals. Source root layout server.ts. Pass locals.team to client. Do we need to pass local.team to client? Yeah, I guess we do need it. I guess we can also read directly from the cookie, but I would say, yeah, we can probably pass it down to thing. But do we want to use remote functions? I think it will be nice. And I think I'll actually say that. So atomic components, TDD, write failing test first, then implement. Section rule, pure presentation of HR start with rule variable, renders are separator, article meta, props, items, first item side as category, accent color, item separated by mid dot. I'm not sure what this is, so we can ask. Nav link, styled uppercase link with an underline on over animation using accent. Renders link with correct href and text content. Mode toggle, no, I really don't. I mean, maybe in this case it could be self-contained, so like I think it's fine. From server, null system, on click, toggle dark light class. Render sun and moon SVG. Page footer. Yeah, I guess it's fine. Page header, I think it's fine. I don't really super like this page header and page footer because at the end of the day, they can just be in the layout, but I guess it's fine. Refactor existing, refactor to use article meta for the meta line, import article from lib types, remove keyframe fade up, now global, update existing articles Svelte spec, featured articles Svelte, refactor, compose, refactor editorial design, update plus page, verification, key files modified. Okay, so we say no, stay with the plan, and we need to send another message. So a few changes. 1. For the global article types, we can install validbot and create an actual validation schema that we can infer the type from. We are going to use the schema later. That was 1. Second, what else we have to say? This is probably fine, we said. This is good. Okay, so instead of using plus layout.server.ts to pass down the theme to the client, we can use remote functions. The strategy, the transform HTML chunk strategy is good though. That was under change. Section rule, article meta. I don't fully understand what this article meta is, but we can see. Nav link, mode toggle, page footer, page header. I would say like I still don't see a button component, which I think we should have to have consistent designs in the application. I think we can send this. Would you like to switch to the build agent and start implementing? So right now we are at 40% context. So we can not do it, and then we can say new, and we can switch to build, and we can say implement the plan in dot open code plans Nimble's Island. So given that we reached like already, we were at like 40%. What we are doing right now is actually creating a brand new session and asking the agent to implement the plan in this MD file, which is where it was stored. And this is what is one of the advantages of the plan, right? We can now have a reference that we can even reference like in like 1 week if we don't finish implementing the plan. And I'm gonna also add, feel free to use the Svelte core best practice skill if needed. We are compacting. I wonder if this will mess up, because I don't think it fixed the, it didn't fix the theme.remote.ts file yet. So I'm curious if this will actually mess up. Let me actually do like, did you try to build the project? Because this will fail. I want to see if it's able to figure out what's going wrong. The get team export isn't a valid remote function. Let me look at what it export. It is able to figure it out. So there's still something that I don't like about this, and it's the fact that, so I like that it's setting the cookie, setting the class name, setting the new team, but remote functions should be invoked within underived in case they are invalidated. Also, don't use a separate state variable in mode toggle. Deriveds can be reassigned. They will toggle back in case function is invalidated. All right, so we actually finished implementing all the changes in the plan, and we can see that we have a lot of changes. We have a lot of new components that are smaller now. We can actually validate them. We can actually take a look at the changes that we made. We have the font source change in the layout. We have a new version of the variables in the root CSS, and this is good because like those are effectively our design system. We have our font display, so we can reuse this all over. We also implemented a lot of like dark mode things. So if we take a look at the hooks.server.ts, it's now handling the theme through cookies. So it's reading the theme and it's using transform page chunk to replace HTML lang n with class team, so that we actually get the team is properly set up even when we are server-side rendering. We are using a remote function, which the agent did mess up initially, but we were able to steer it. And we are using Valibot to have a schema for the article. And then we have a bunch of small little stuff like the button, which is using a style like this with the hover button ghost, and it's also spreading the rest props, and it's using the class like this. So that's very nice. We have refactored, like we have a very small design system with our section rule. The tests are pointless sometimes. You should always read your test, remember, because like it can do stuff like this. Now, this is probably fine for testing purpose. I think I will spend a bit more time pointing out this stuff that I don't like and refactor all of them. But I wanted to close today's video because the point of today's video was that we understand now that if we use plan mode, we can get a file like this one with the plan, what the agent is planning to do, that we can refactor and iterate over with the agent, and this will generally lead to much better results. So like in the first version, it didn't create the button component, for example. Obviously, we could have had iterated over the plan after the code was changed, but generally speaking, you get much better result when you actually create the plan, you iterate on the plan, and then you create a brand new session when you say, okay, please implement this file. And this can also expand to much bigger refactors. So this was a small task, but you can create a plan for even bigger features. And the fact that you have an MD file will make sure that if you want to reference that file in a future session, you can do it. And so you can save context in the current session. Thank you for joining me today. In the next episode, we are going to continue building this application because right now we are basically doing a bunch of refactoring. We are setting up the stage to then be able to build on top of this design system. But we're going to start to actually build something, and we're going to see how we can steer the model the moment we have something that we do very often. So we are going to probably create our own skill when we figure out that the agent doesn't know how to do something specifically. For example, we've seen that it's not very good at creating a remote function, so we might create a very quick remote function skill so that if he needs to create a remote function, he has all the information about remote functions. We're gonna probably take a look at what to put into agents.md. In general, in the next episode, we should make pretty good advancement in the application itself because it will span for much longer. So I generally am recording a new episode every hour and a half, more or less. The next episode will span multiple hours because we're gonna collect all the errors that the LLM does during the course of the development, and then we're gonna put together a single episode where I'm gonna point out all the mistakes and what to add to agents.md, what to create a skill for, and stuff like that. So thank you for watching, and if you have any question, as usual, both about this series or if you need help with your project, you can reach out to mainmatter.com to learn more about the company and more about how we can help you build your project. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.